Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to our very first Q&A and drop-in hour with the Career Development Center. My name is Kiana Wiley, and I'm a graduate assistant for the office. I'll be your host for the day, and I wanted to start off by kind of reiterating that the Career Development Center is still here to help you with any career-related needs that you might have. We know like this time is very difficult with the added impacts also of the job market and career opportunities. We're still holding virtual events that are advertised. You can also continue to schedule appointments through Handshake. That will happen through phone or video. And then next, I kind of wanted to go over kind of the layout of the Q&A and drop-in hour. So all of your questions can be typed in the chat box directly to Abby Rasilis, and then yes, Abby, and then Abby will either read them out loud or I will read them out loud, and either I will answer them or we have a couple other counselors here as well from CDev, so they might be able to answer your questions as well. So everyone is going to be muted during the hour, and with the exception of the host. And then you can either have your camera on or off, but it's definitely optional. And then to reiterate that, for staying the entire time, you will be able to get either a compass, a Connect, passport, or passport point. So you can start sending in your questions through the chat box, and feel free to just ask any questions that you would have that are career related. So it looks like we have a question. It says, what does auditing a course mean? I do not have an answer to that question, so I'll send it to either Abby or Emily or Katie if you have an answer.
I'll take it. Hi everyone, I'm Emily Baxton, one of the counselors here in the Career Center. I would start by saying I'm going to give you some information about what it means to audit a class, but I would confirm this with your academic advisor because this is an academic issue. Generally, auditing a class means participating in it without getting credit or a grade. So it'd be almost like observing or shadowing a class. That's what it means at most schools. I haven't heard anything about this at USD right now, so I can't give you specific info there. Abby, I don't know if you have anything else to add on that.
No, yeah, you're good. I would definitely recommend what Emily said, just chatting with your academic advisors, as they'll have more specific information for that. Another question that's coming in, and I'll type it in the box, is how do I know what companies are still hiring?
Right, so very good question. So there are a couple resources that we have that are kind of outlining what companies are still hiring. So I would first suggest taking a look at our jobs and internships that are open on Handshake. So it's a USC, our USC platform where we are always updating jobs with the companies that have been approved. So that's a good first stop for those answers. Otherwise, the Wall Street Journal has an updated list of places that are hiring as well. So I think just doing a quick search for just companies that are still hiring, some pretty prominent newspapers and articles are also updating with companies that have communicated that to them. So I think just using those resources and the resources that we have at USD would be a good first step for that. And any of the other counselors can add anything to what I'm saying as well.
And we can send out that link to the Wall Street Journal after. I'm sorry, my name is Katie Freedman. I also work in the Career Development Center. We can send the link to the Wall Street Journal article that Kiana referenced after. And then if you're using job boards such as Handshake or Career Shift or whatever it may be, I would encourage you to filter by the date posted, because you want to look at positions that were posted recently versus a while ago.
Great. I have a question that came through. I have an internship that has already been postponed by a month, and I'm worried that it might get canceled. I'm planning on applying for the CDev internship stipend. If I'm selected for the stipend but the internship is canceled, obviously would let CDev know, will my stipend help me cover any costs I may procure due to securing housing but then having to cancel, or anything like that in the future? Emily, do you want to take that, or should I take that? Me? Okay. So I'm super glad that you are applying for the CDev Summer Internship Award. If those of you are not familiar with it, it does help with different costs that are associated with your summer internship. I know this is a stressful time right now where things are up in flux, right? Some internships are being postponed, some are going remote, some may eventually be canceled. We're all taking it day by day. But one thing that I would say is that CDev will do its best to make sure that if you are honored with that award, if something were to happen, we'll figure out what that cost looked like from the moment that you receive that award to the moment that you potentially start your internship, and then when you end your internship, should it get canceled. So we'll figure out what that looks like. I think we're trying to do a game plan to make sure we have all the scenarios in place. So still apply for the awards, still apply for internships. We will do our best to make sure that you all feel settled in this situation.
And then there was another question that was sent to everyone. So it says, is there a specific deadline on completion for passport points? So the CRP point program, the deadline for those completing that program, since it's a graduation requirement, would be April 30th. So that would be the deadline for completion of the passport points. Now, if there are any concerns, you can definitely email your respective counselors, and we can try to fix those situations with you. Just with a simple email, we can have that discussion.
Yes, thanks, Kiana. I just wanted to follow up on that too. If any of you are seniors graduating this semester and trying to finish up Compass or Passport points, just reach out. All of you should be receiving emails from a counselor in the office, but we're here to help you figure out how to get that all done. We want to get you graduated, and we're going to try to make it as smooth as we can for you.
Great. Another question that has come through is, if I take a class pass-fail, will it be detrimental to me in my job search rather than taking the class as a normal grade?
What I've heard about that is a lot of schools, if you're applying to a graduate program, will look at GPAs for acceptance. So my understanding with that is that GPAs are sometimes really important for meeting those requirements. But other than that, if you're going to a professional position, I don't necessarily know if that would do any harm or anything to that. Does anyone have any of the other counselors have any opinions about that?
I think for a job, looking at GPA, this year is going to be different from all other years. So it's hard to predict exactly how employers are going to look at a pass-fail in this final semester as you're moving forward. But I think it is important to recognize, since everyone is going through the same situation right now, the rules are just going to be a little bit different from here on out. We just don't know quite how that's going to look. And if you're concerned, I think as Kiana said, it's more of an issue if you are applying for a professional or graduate program, in which case I would talk to like the pre-health advisor or your academic advisor, who might be able to give you some specific guidance. But I know grad programs too are reworking the rules as we speak to accommodate the fact that everyone is having this shared difficult academic experience this semester.
Yeah, thinking about specific industries too. So if I have any accounting students that are in the audience, depending if they're looking at your grades for any type of, say you have an internship or you have an offer already and they're looking and checking transcripts to make sure you've already passed costs, or maybe it's intermediate accounting or tax or audit, just being mindful of what the different industries might be requiring for different grade point averages or class grades.
And then lastly, just keeping in mind that it's a transition to virtual learning. So I think it should be said that if the option is that you're going to fail the class if you don't transition it to a pass-fail to earn that pass, then you want to have that conversation with your academic advisor on, okay, should I go pass-fail so I can get that pass versus have the fail, and then consider retaking the class if you need to in the future for that letter grade. This is the only semester where you can do that pass-fail. If you retake the class later on, you'll be taking it for a letter grade. You won't have that option to redo it as pass-fail per the USD policy.
Perfect, thank you. So the next question that we do have is, how do I prepare for a virtual interview? And I'd say you prepare for the interview just like any other one. We have a resource on the Career Development Center's website called Interview Stream, and you can practice your interview skills through that platform. I'd also suggest that you like smile when you talk, so that creates a positive tone of voice and helps with your nonverbal, so your visual, what people can actually see. And then choose a setting with little distractions. So even when you're, just like when you're taking a class, you want a place where you can actually focus. So that's the same for a job interview. And then have your notes with you. So if there are expected questions for the interview, I would just suggest that you kind of prep beforehand and possibly have those written on the side with just some quick answers. And then always look in the camera as well. In person, direct eye contact is pretty essential usually. So just with the same thing, looking in the camera is pretty essential as well. And then another question, with Zoom calls, you can have a custom background. Is it more professional to have a virtual background or a real one? I think it depends on the situation. Some people don't necessarily like to have their things on the back of their what people can see when they're talking on video, but others prefer a virtual background. If you do opt for a virtual background, I would keep it professional. So there are a lot that are put up there that are coffee shops or just like a boardroom or things like that. I think that's more professional than having something from social media or pop culture that is your background. Another question just came in. It says, if my internship has been moved to fully remote, how can I showcase my value to my employer since the in-person interactions are no longer there? Would Emily like to take that question?
Absolutely. I think this is, again, an opportunity to develop some new skills. So working remotely, you're going to need to learn to communicate your accomplishments, your questions, your value to your manager, whoever that might be for your internship, in a way that's a little different than if you were in person. So one of the things I would recommend is try to schedule a regular check-in time with your supervisor or manager. So even if it's a 20-minute meeting once a week, something where you can touch base. And I would encourage you to structure that in a way that can really maximize productivity, maybe in a sort of a status report style, where you can say, this is what I completed this past week, this is what I plan to complete this upcoming week, and here's questions I have or information I need to move forward. So that's a really quick way to make sure that people know what you're doing and what you're working on. I think additionally, just communicating, emailing, providing information about what you're doing, providing updates on projects you're working on, and definitely asking for feedback when you need it and help when you need it.
Perfect. Thank you, Emily. So it looks like the question is, what can I do to help my career search during COVID? So like we said earlier, the coronavirus has definitely impacted a lot of the job opportunities, or some of the job opportunities that are out there. With your search for positions, I think it would still be helpful to use the same outlets as you would normally. I think it's beneficial that you maybe keep updated on the jobs or companies that are still hiring. But to help your career search during this time, I think it's probably useful to continue having that initiative and motivation to find a job. And we're very positive that there are companies that are still hiring. So we would suggest having just a plan A, B, and C strategy for your job search. So plan A would be companies that most interest you and that you're most qualified for. Plan B would be they are companies or jobs that still relate to the same jobs that are in plan A, but these opportunities might be in companies that can be like stepping stones to plan A positions. So quote unquote, your dream job. And then plan C, these are options that can be those that are not necessarily have to require a college degree. So they'll provide you with a peace of mind and like financial stability at this time. So those are a suggestion for your search while you're looking for positions right now, since they might be a kind of tough way to find positions that maybe pique your interest the most right now. So another question just came in. It says, if I already applied or interviewed, how do I follow up in this environment? I believe just like any other follow-up would be my option. So the suggested time that you should wait I think, for a follow-up, I believe is a week. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I would just follow up like any other, just send them a very nicely written, formatted email that's professional, asking if they have that you wanted to follow up on the prospect of the job position that you applied or interviewed for, but giving them some time to, if you have already interview other applicants as well.
I think it's fair to everyone's going through a similar situation in regards to figuring out what's happening next, right? So a lot of you have already been communicating with us in different various forms of emails, like, hi, I hope you're doing well during this time, framing it that way. You know, just checking up on the status of my application. and framing it in a way that you're hopeful and you're still really interested in the position. Given that you don't know what their situation is, you don't need to pry. They can share with you whenever they have that information to share with you back. A question that I got through the chat is, if I don't have any internship experience and potentially my GPA is not as high as I would like it to be, how would one still pursue getting their college degree when graduating in the summer and potentially finding other full-time opportunities?
Yeah, would one of the other counselors like to take that question?
I'll take that. So I think we always want to frame it with the experience that we do have. So if your GPA isn't as high as you envisioned, or maybe you didn't get as much career-related experience, what are things that we can add to your LinkedIn or to your resume that do showcase those transferable skills? So maybe you have longevity in a part-time position that we can really highlight. Maybe you were active in a student club and that's going to be your selling point. Maybe there was a project or projects that you did in a few of your classes that we can put on your documents. So I would encourage you make an appointment with myself or one of the other counselors, and we can talk about how to showcase some of those maybe experiences that you do have that you're not thinking as directly career related, but there's ways to showcase them to make them career related.
It looks like there's another question. With everything going on, do you think it's worth considering graduate school right now? Anyone?
Talk about that. I think that graduate school is a great idea if there's a job at the other end of grad school that you can't get without grad school, if that makes sense. So if you know there is a job you want, for example, being an attorney, and you cannot do that job without getting your JD, then by all means, it's, I think grad school is great to look at. I don't usually encourage people to go to graduate school as a way to wait out the market or a way to do career exploration, because it's a really expensive way to do it. Both expensive in terms of money, but also in terms of your time. So I really look at the return on investment in those types of situations. And I would work, again, I would say, meet with a counselor, meet with one of us. We're happy to talk you through those pros and cons and help you really understand whether or not that would be a good fit for your career trajectory at this point. I will say in general, I think it's important to recognize that as the economy goes down, graduate school applications go up and vice versa. So that is something that we do see as a trend, is that people will go to school sometimes when the economy's lower, but again, it's an expensive way to do career exploration or to wait out the economy. So come talk to us and we can help you decide if it's good or not.
My only addition to that would be if you're considering grad school a few years from now, so maybe graduate school is on your radar, in 3 or 4 years from now, this could be a great time for you to take out that GRE book you've had for a while and study for the GRE. It could be a great time to start thinking about that personal statement. So I agree with Emily. I don't think we're going to graduate school just because of the dip in the economy, but if it's something that's on your radar in the next few years, what are ways you can be using this time to prepare for that?
Okay, I'm gonna post this question. I might have to read it up because it took me a while to figure out how to frame it. So, how would you recommend networking when a geographical distance is ordinarily an issue? So not even when we're down and we're in a lockdown. And is it also inappropriate to change a LinkedIn location to where I want to get a job and I'm seeking work, but I'm not there yet, to maximize being found by employers who hire from that area? So two-part question. So one, how do I network if I'm not in that area, even without COVID and now with COVID? And then two, should I change my location on my LinkedIn?
I think just to start off, the first part of the question, how do you network when there are constraints with geographical locations? use the kind of popular networking tools. So on our platform, we have Team, so that's a good resource to use with USD alumni and connecting with those kind of those people who might have the jobs that you want, people who can be mentors to you. That's a good platform to use as well. But there's also LinkedIn, like it's mentioned in the question, where you can also find alumni. You can also connect with people at the company or who have worked at the company that you would want to get some information from, and just sending them a message. I think using the technological resources first and foremost is probably the easiest bet, since a lot of people do have their phones these days on them or have a laptop. And if you don't have those resources like a laptop or a phone, then using just word of mouth resources, I think, would be a good way to go as well, since there also can be constraints with technology as well. So I think asking around, using the Career Development Center to ask how to start your search with networking professionals. Would anyone like to answer the second part of the question?
I can answer the second part. I think if you have full intention on moving to that geographic area, I don't find anything wrong with changing the location on your LinkedIn profile. So if you really are going to move to Austin and you'd be willing to pick up and go there in the next few months, then go ahead and change it to Austin, Texas. If you're just toying with the idea that Salt Lake City might be a fun place to live, then I wouldn't go ahead and change it. So I think if you're really committed, I think it's okay to change that. And then in the conversation with someone, you could explain that you're not there yet, but you'd be willing to get there in the next, 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, as someone that has done a lot of hiring for our organization, one thing that I would be cautious about, one, if you want to share your address or your location, but two, if you say you're in San Diego and I see that on your resume and you're stating that in your cover letter, and then I call you for an interview and you're not necessarily in San Diego, like you've said in your documents, assuming that I want to interview you the next day or in the next week, and you've got to fly from New York to San Diego, just think about how that might look from a translation standpoint in regards to how that might be received. Can you maybe explain in your cover letter that you're looking to put down roots in San Diego or put down roots in New York City, and that's an area that you really want to build your professional career. You can also utilize LinkedIn's summary, right, to say, these are the areas of interest where you'd really love to build your professional career as well. Yeah. Anyone else that has anything to add to that?
I would just say about online networking in general, I think this is actually a good time. A lot of people want to help. Right now in particular, up and down my LinkedIn newsfeed, I see people saying, I want to help, let me know what I can do. I think so many people look outside at this crisis we're having, but if you're not like an essential worker or a healthcare worker, you can feel helpless. So our alums, different people in industry, I just keep seeing people saying, I'd love to talk to you, I want to help you, let me help people who've been laid off, let me help people who are graduating this year. So doing informational interviews where you're just reaching out to someone to ask about their job or their career or their industry, I think that those are being really well received right now, and you can have really effective conversations via Zoom. I would just say when you reach out to people, give grace. Some people aren't going to get back to you. Assume that they're home with a 4-year-old, or that they're trying to keep their business afloat or whatever. Everyone's being impacted by this situation, but I would say in general, what I tell my students is if you send out 5 requests for invitations to have a conversation and 2 people get back to you, that's awesome. And those can be really, really valuable conversations.
Thank you. I think we have another question. It says, Also, I don't have professional experience in the career I want to pursue. How can I fill out my LinkedIn/Handshake profile to still look attractive to potential employers? It says also internship opportunities. So I think the first thing to note, I believe Katie might have talked about it already earlier, but to kind of highlight the other things that you've done at school. So if it's not professional experience, it's what clubs or different things you were involved in school. What kind of I think also academics is something that you can highlight as well. But just your different clubs, different opportunities that you've taken in school, leadership positions that you've had. So if you were on the executive board of a club, that definitely shows some leadership skills, and there are a lot of transferable skills for a lot of opportunities. So that's something that you can definitely highlight, and kind of articulating that in your resume or cover letter or your LinkedIn summary can be definitely very helpful too, because there are a lot of skills that you can get in a professional experience that you can also get in other experiences as well.
So another question that came in is it okay to just get a job for now to help pay the bills?
I can answer that one. So I would say yes. A lot of people these days do need that financial stability. So if it is something that you need to pay rent and pay your phone bill or water bill or things like that, I think that's definitely something that should be put at the forefront of the things that you might want to be doing right now. So I think that's definitely a good thing to do as, like I was talking about, a plan C, and just as something that you can just use right now for kind of gaining that momentum and creating some stability in your life, where then you can look for more professional opportunities if that's something that you want to do in the future.
Yeah, and always think about how those are transferable, right? So in college, I worked at CVS. So dealing with customers that had strong opinions, how does that translate to an office setting, right? Or professional setting? Being able to manage different personalities, timelines, schedules, all of that. No matter what the job is, you'll be able to translate that experience. It's just a matter of that practice, right? So we're here to help you and guide you through that. So don't feel ashamed or feel like that's not a route that most people should take. In fact, a lot of people do take that path. So don't be afraid of that.
I'll add on to that too. I think absolutely take a job to pay the bills because you want the bills to be paid. But just know that that doesn't have to be where your career ends. It's just where your career is starting. It's where you're getting that experience. And I work a lot with clients to say, okay, let's say that you are living at home, working for Instacart. It's not where you thought you'd be when you graduate college. We find ways to build in those experiences. At the same time, can you be working on a certification for Google AdWords? Can you reach out to your local nonprofit that you really like and help them with their marketing plan? Are there things that you can be doing that add to your resume, add to your credibility, add to your experience as you're working what you consider just a job to earn money? Then you can be more ready to make that next career step and move forward.
Perfect. Thank you, Emily and Abby, for your additions to the answer. So another question could be, that we got was, how can I be productive with kind of career development during COVID? So I suggest that you update your resume. You can find samples on our website from the Career Guide. You can learn new skills, or try online classes to kind of build those skills. You can create and grow your professional network, such as like things on LinkedIn and Team, how we were talking about networking earlier with alumni and other professionals. You can keep searching for jobs and internships moving forward. So like we said, in the future, that could be something that you would want to do if it's not something that you have in your plan right now. And then other career resources right now that we have are just remembering to make appointments if that's something that you want to gain more insight on, how to kind of develop your skills, develop your resume, and your cover letters, and maybe your profiles that you have that are in the professional setting. And then look at different resources that you might have available to you based on just looking up skills or classes that you might be taking to help with your professional development. I think it's an ongoing process, but it's always something that you can do along the way in your free time. But that's something that where it's a starting point, but we definitely have a lot of resources on our website where you can look and kind of start that journey. And then we're always here to help with any career development questions that you might have, since it's not always an easy process to navigate, and that's definitely normal. If anyone has any other questions, we can definitely go along with those. Otherwise, if there aren't any more questions, then we can definitely start putting in, the link, because there's a link to a Google form that you'll be filling out, just asking questions about like what CRP program you're in, and going through just like an attendance that you were here. So I'll send the link out now.
And what we'll do is we will match that with those that have signed in and participated, as in stayed for the session. And that'll cross-reference. Anisale and I will make sure to input that. You probably won't see that on your portal for another 48 hours, only because it's a manual process and takes some time. So if you don't see it right away after this event, just know that we're working remote as well, and so it takes us a little bit more time to add things versus just putting your ID on the iPad. But otherwise, we hope you all have a great day, and we're here for you. So I hope you do use our services throughout the time, and good luck with the rest of this semester.
Yes, thank you everyone, and remember you can still make appointments and talk to your career counselors here. We're here to help you.